My name is Lisa Peterson. I recently retired from a 20-year career teaching film production, and that was my second career. I was actually a production manager, producer for 20 years before that. If I could reimagine the world, it would be a world without Parkinson's. He was a Southern gentleman. He was a journalist. He was an excellent guitar player and had a band. On our third date, he came over for dinner and he started to play and I started to sing, and it was just magical. I mean, we both just sort of realized that this is a really good thing. And I kind of had a lot of rough edges. You know, I grew up in New Jersey and he really calmed me down. He would say, "If it pleases you, it tickles the hell out of me." I told him often, I said, "You make me want to be a better person." We'd been going out for about 2 years and we decided to go to Paris, and he really wanted to go to the top of the Eiffel Tower, and I was kind of like, well, you know, I'm happy just looking at it from the ground. And he said, no, we got to go up there. And he actually proposed at the top of the Eiffel Tower. He complained that he had stiffness in his right hand, and he thought it was carpal tunnel. So he came home from the doctor, and he sat down in the sunroom, and he said, he told me I have Parkinson's, and he started to shake, like his whole body, and I could just see it was an emotional moment, and this was his physical response. And I just held him. I was sitting next to him, and I held him, and I often thought that, you know, in the movies, when they want to really torture somebody, they don't torture that person, they torture a loved one of theirs. And that's what it was. It's just the worst hell on earth. The immediate thing was to start giving him medications, which was primarily the carbidopa-levodopa, and he has to take it 5 times a day. It has to be so many hours apart. You can't take it within an hour of eating protein. It was a daily, constant challenge to stay on top of the meds. We went up to a premier doctor who does deep brain stimulation surgery, which is opening up the brain and putting like a pin in there that's hooked up to power, and it sends energy. And after the DBS surgery, which is very traumatic, you have to be awake when they do it. I think it was probably helping the meds work better, but that might have been all it was doing. Patrick's case of Parkinson's accelerated very quickly. He suffered from terrible hallucinations. In the middle of the night, he was very agitated and upset and said there's people in the house with guns. He on his own would call 911 and they'd come to the door, and I'd say, "I'm really sorry, my husband has Parkinson's." We were sleeping in separate rooms because he would yell and he would thrash around, and so I was worried about getting hurt. One night I heard him wake up, and I went in there and I knocked on the door, and I opened the door and he wasn't in the room, and I said, "Honey, are you in here?" And he was behind me, behind the door, and he jumped out at me, and he had one of those metal triangles that you pull yourself up out of bed with, and somehow he'd gotten it off the chain. I don't even know how to do that. And he was sort of brandishing it at me like he was going to hit me. And he said, "I know you're you're trying to kill me." And I was terrified. I said, "Honey, no, I'm not. You know, he didn't do anything beyond that. But from that point forward, I was afraid of him. And I used to sleep with a chair under my doorknob so that he couldn't come in my room and kill me. He was just so not that guy. You know, he was always, as his daughter said, the smartest guy in the room, the most emotionally balanced guy. And one of those times he had fallen, it was in the morning, and I said, "Honey, I need to call 911. And he said, "I think we need to talk about putting me in assisted living." And it was like somebody else was in the room. I mean, it was such a lucid, clear statement. And I feel like that was the last time I really got to talk to him, that was sort of his parting shot, was do this for yourself and for me. One of our neurologists said that within 10 years, Parkinson's will be classified as an epidemic, and they are dealing with it in increasing numbers every year. I have a great debt of gratitude to all the neurologists and researchers who've worked so hard to make life better for people with Parkinson's. because they stay in the game when it's so hard and it's so incrementally, the benefits are so tiny and it moves so slowly. But I think in broader terms, who we are and what makes us unique and different and enduring is our brains and our personalities. And to have diseases that destroy that and take that away is so tragic. It's important to me that cures are found, ways to avoid this, ways to preserve the very crux of who we are as human beings is critical.